Hey everybody, welcome to Life is Beautiful. I'm Anthony. Today we're going to be doing a glassware overview where we do a little bit of a deep dive into a very specific type of glassware designated for beer. We are going to be discussing the one, the only Snifter goblet, or Tulip Snifter, or Belgian Tulip, or Belgian Goblet Tulip Snifter. It has a lot of names. But just for clarity's sake, we're just going to keep it simple and call it a snifter. In my opinion, there is no better type of glassware for beer. This has everything and does everything that I want a good beer glass to do. The snifter glass is an incredibly interestingly designed glass. It has a very, very bulbous body. It has a thick stem with a flat round base. The bulb is often praised for its ability to swirl your beer and create beautiful aromatics, and it accentuates the volatiles within the beer. And the rim of the glass is usually just a little bit reinforced to create a little turbulation of the beer coming out of the glass into your mouth. It's also a little bit thicker than the rest of the body in order to prevent chipping in case you bang it up against a counter or something. And the cool thing about the wide mouth of this glass is that when you go to drink out of it, you're actually sticking your nose into the glass, getting it nose, like basically nostril level to the beer, really, really getting you involved in the aromatics of the beer. It really helps emphasize that whole immersion effect of drinking beer out of this glass. Now, the reason why I say it is an interestingly designed glass is specifically because of the stem. There are multiple ways to hold this glass, either like this around it if you want to try to adhere to this typical drinking process of a stemmed glass, where you hold it and keep your hand away from the glass to prevent warming it. But really, this glass is meant to be palmed. And that's because the whole aspect of the snifter is to heat up the beer with your body temperature in your hand to enhance your sensory perception of the beer. That does seem a little bit counterintuitive to most stemmed glassware. So why is this one particular beer glass designed this way when all other stemmed beer glassware is designed to do the exact opposite? Well, that's because the snifter glass is completely different than all other beer glasses. And that's because it wasn't designed for beer. Its original design was actually intended for spirits, particularly and most likely brandy. Now, the history of the original snifter is a bit muddled and mostly lost to time because it goes all the way back to the 1st century. Roman statesman and historian both of beer and pretty much everything else, Pliny the Elder, he was one of the first people to ever describe the snifter. Pliny described very, very strong wine, damn near brandy-like, that was being served in glasses that resembled this shape. He also noted that, much like today, this was actually the preferred shape for drinking strong wines out of. Around the 20th century is when the snifter actually became as prominent and well-known as it is today. It was also during this time where this glass got a bit of prestige. This is where people really started looking at the snifter as a symbol of wealth and placement in society. Most people were drinking brandy or whiskey out of a glass like this. However, the great wine blight in France in the 1900s completely decimated the supply of both brandy and cognac, making them a scarcity. It was automatically thrust into this new realm of prestigious beverages. And if you really wanted to show off your sophistication, your wealth, your status, you were ordering drinks that would be served in this glass, which was mostly brandy and cognac. And because of that, this glass automatically just became a symbol of the finer things in life. Now, it is a bit uncertain when the snifter kind of made the jump over into the world of beer, but we can assume it was around the early 20s to mid 50s era of Belgium, hence why it's called the Belgian snifter. Glassware is an incredibly important part of Belgian beer culture. And you can kind of see that throughout a lot of Belgian beer glassware. They often try to emphasize the quality of their beverage through the impressiveness of their glassware. So it makes a lot of sense for one of the only countries during this time period to really treat their beer as some accentuated, elevated, sophisticated product that they would want to put it into glassware designed to accentuate that era sophistication. And this is also around the time period where we start seeing the beerification of the snifter. The original design certainly meant for alcohol and high, strong spirits. It, did everything you would want. It definitely gave you that bazooka effect, getting the strong characteristics of your liquor. But it wasn't necessarily intended perfectly for beer. And you can kind of see different shapes of this glass slowly start becoming more adapted to beer, where we reach the most common version of it, where we have a big, thick base, a big, fat, bulbous body capable of holding a full pint, and we see the elevated lip designed for reinforcing and keeping the structural stability of foam. It still functioned as a proper snifter, being able to stick your whole nose into the glass, being able to swirl it around and generate those big aromatic capabilities. But it was also designed in a way where you could see multiple different densities of your glass, on a straightforward level, being able to accentuate a variety of different hues in its actual color. That's why I particularly love this glass, because you hold a dark stout up to the light with this glass, you're really able to pick up the mahogany and ruby tones in it. These changes definitely enhance the beer drinking experience, but it also changed the perception of this glass. Nowadays, you see somebody drinking a glass like this, you don't necessarily automatically think, oh, Mr. Moneybags or Mr. Wealthy, you just think, oh, they're drinking a nicer beverage that you want to see being drank out of a nicer glass, So it still has a touch of that sophistication, but it is much more approachable, a little bit more everyman. This is such a fantastic design glass that you can honestly see it being kind of replicated, or at least other glasses taking inspiration from its design. And it also resembles a lot of previously established glasses where you get a lot of confusion, It kind of looks like a Belgian tulip. It kind of looks like a little bit like a German tulip. And that's why it kind of gets lumped into that whole tulip family. And although I agree with that, it doesn't necessarily embody a tulip glass, It's just kind of a rough moniker that's been put onto it, a semi-official nom de plume. It could also fit into a wide range of the goblet category, It kind of resembles a lot of the goblets and chalices you see from some of your Trappist breweries, but it doesn't necessarily fit it to a T. Hence why it kind of gets put in that category, but not. So it's kind of all over the place as far as like the beer family tree goes. And I think all these names do fit to some degree, but don't accurately fit it. And that's why I think truly the best name for it is just the Snifter glass. If we want to get specific and move away from, a classic snifter design, we can call it, a beer snifter, or, the really big long name, Belgian tulip beer snifter goblet. I don't know. So if you are looking up a variety of beer glasses, you will often see this included in both goblets, chalices, and tulip glasses, but there are a lot of people who do think it deserves to be in its own specific snifter category, which I 100% agree with, although I can see why it does get lumped in. So let's get a little bit into its utilization. Because of the original design and the original, interpretation of this style of glass, it is most commonly used for your higher ABV beers, your barley wines, your imperial stouts, those big, strong beers that you don't want to fill all the way up. You just want to be able to swirl it and get a big blast on the nose, really pick up the subtleties that are often hidden by the big boozy characters. Those type of beers would also greatly benefit from the hand warming effect that this glass requires. However, it seems with the more beer-centric versions of this glass that many breweries are often putting in their lower ABV beers, their less pungent, their less in-your-face beers, because of that accentuating effect that you get from sticking your nose straight into the glass. It really helps bolster the characteristics that might be hidden in other types of glassware. And basically any type of beer that requires a strong head formation, this is a great beer to do so because you're able to generate a lot of turbulation within this to generate that head. And because of that vertical wall, you're able to get a nice structural integrity developed within the glass. So it's appealing both aesthetically and sensorial analytically. But talk is cheap. Let's put it to the test. So I am going to actually hand this over to my good friend Bumpy at Bumpy Road Brewing. He is one of my favorite people on YouTube to talk to. He's a genuinely good guy and incredibly knowledgeable in both beer and glassware. So check out his channel, but he's going to do a little experiment for me where he's going to do a little glassware comparison. So let's see what he has to say on the benefits of this glass.
Hello, this is Jesse from Bumpy Road Brewery, and I was asked by Life is Brutiful to do a glass comparison. One of them has to be the Belgian Tulip style glass. The glass I am going to compare it to is a can pint glass. The beer that I am going to do this experiment with is a New England IPA called Pivot. Comes from Backyard Brewery, and it is 6.5% ABV. If you look at them, it looks like, well, I mean, they both have a nice white head, fairly small bubbles. This one's head is a bit bigger. Coloration of the body itself, this one seems to be a little bit darker in color. This one seems to be more in that straw to light gold. This one's kind of like a mid-range gold appearance. A little bit of a citrusy, kind of a soft citrus, like maybe tangerine, and a slight amount of an herbal note. The aroma's out of the can glass. Definitely different, not as bright coming through on this one. Seems to be a little bit on the darker side, maybe a little bit more mango and herbal notes. Less citrusy. Pineapple's hard to pick up in this one. It seems to have like darkened it almost in the aromas. Yeah, the aromas definitely come through or out of the glass a lot better. And the Belgian, this one just seems to deepen it or something. All right, let's go for the first swig. So cheers. Tulip glass. It's bready, kind of malt kind of hits me first, and then there's a bit of a citrus note, little bit of an herbalness, but the citrus note kind of follows through with a bittering at the tail end, kind of like the rind of like a clementine. We'll go with the swig on the can glass, anyways. Pretty much same type deal with the malt. So I'm gonna say, just seems to be brighter, more aromatic, at least out of the tulip glass. A little bit brighter in the mouth as well. This one out of the can glass does seem to kind of darken up the aromas a bit. Kind of does that for the flavor as well. It just kind of seems to be bringing out a little bit more mango. Well, Anthony, I hope that helps you out, and see this in about a year, right?
You know, the results speak for themselves. I encourage you to go home, conduct your own experiments, and let me know what you think. Does this glass live up to the accentuating beneficial factors that a lot of people give it credit for? I don't know. Let me know. In conclusion, like I said, this is just my favorite glass. And yeah, I'm a little bit fanboying, and yeah, I'm a little bit biased because I love it so much. Hence why I had to get somebody else to do the side-by-side comparison. You know, we need the integrity here on this channel. It's easy to see why it is such a staple in the beer community, even though it wasn't originally designed for beer. We took it, we manipulated it, we changed it, and we made it for us. And that's why you see a lot of sources saying, this is the only beer glass you actually need. It kind of replaces the utilization of almost every other beer glass. And honestly, still to this day, I've never found a glass that does a better job than this one, in my opinion. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks for listening to me rattle on about something I don't think a whole lot of people really care about, but means a whole lot to me. So once again, thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, there is a story in every glass, and that life is beautiful. Cheers, y'all.